Greetings, Tezos Nation. Welcome to another edition of TezTalks Live. I'm Stu from the Tezos Commons. Joining me today is TechMental, Web3 artist, creative director, and builder. TechMental is joining us today to talk about his journey into the Tezos ecosystem, the state of Web3 art in 2024, and what's to come for the Tezos art community. Hi, TechMental. Where are you right now, and how's the weather?
How's it going? I'm good. I'm actually cybercasting live from Web3 Miami. It's we're having a cold spell. It's 77 degrees, believe it or not.
Sounds nice. To get the ball rolling, can you tell us a bit about your personal background and your journey into the exciting world of blockchain technology?
Sure. I've always been a pixel pusher since 16-bit, 8-bit video game days. I've always been just obsessed with pixels in general on the television, computer screens. And around 2016, I had a client that I was doing tech support for, and he wanted me to, just fix his computer. He let me know that whatever I do, don't erase the hard drive because there's a crypto wallet in it. I'm like, crypto wallet? They're like, yeah. I'm like, you know about crypto, right? I'm like, yeah, sure, Bitcoin, right? They're like, yeah, but it's not Bitcoin, it's Ethereum. And so went in there, had to fight this virus, take the data out, restore the hard drive, and lo and behold, I saved his 9 Ethereums at the time that I think they were worth like $86 each. So from that, the bounty was he goes, hey, keep 3 for yourself, 3 Ethereums, send me the other 6. And at that point, I had to create a wallet, learn the whole thing, and really learn how to move these tokens around, which, kind of led me into the whole, like, okay, this is the base. That's how I was thrown in the fire.
Okay. And that journey, of course, has led you to becoming a Web3 artist and builder here in the Tezos ecosystem, as I mentioned off the top. Can you talk a little bit about what the journey from Web 1 to Web 3 has looked like from an artist's perspective?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been there for the entire journey where Y2K was actually more than just a term for me. 1999, I was designing websites on South Beach back when it was called Silicon Beach. And where, as an artist, you had to, I mean, graphic artists were in the 90s gods, right? And then when web designers came into play, they were like, oh, that's cute. Check this out, right? And then really had to learn how to like place your art accordingly, make it move. Does it kill the computer? Does it kill the internet? So you learn that. And through Web 1, through Web 2, where Web 3, to me, I don't think about it as like, hey, we're Web 3, you're Web 2. Because it's really an organic evolution, if you think about it. It's just the growing pains of the internet, where now the internet has left school and now it has its own apartment in the city and that kind of stuff, and yeah, so as a digital artist, for myself, I've learned, through those growing pains for myself as well, the do's and do not, and I still take those Web 1 lessons into that as I onboard, graphic artists, street artists, and graffiti writers here in Miami, and just kind of let them know about, just kind of the minds I've walked through, but as a digital artist, there's so much more opportunity within blockchain art, just so much more opportunity where for years we've been, from posting online to our websites to posting on social media and never really having that provenance of like, this data belongs to this person, we only saw that from brands, right? It's like, hey, don't mess with this image,
Yeah. So in looking at your website ahead of this chat, I came across your manifesto and it made me quite curious. How do you view the evolving organic world of blockchain technology and Web3 in 2024 as you referenced? And what do you think is your place within it?
I mean, I see it involving just a lot more technical, which not just artists. We got the programmers, where the architects, where it's like we're all kind of coming together. Back in the day, it was like you're a programmer, you're a designer and you might have a meeting, and it's kind of different. Where blockchain, whether you like it or not, you're programming too. You're
Yeah.
programming your own art. Whether it's, within deep in the blockchain, like the way we're seeing with ordinals and stuff like that, or, within, perfect example, like Tea and Tezos, where it's like, I don't even know how they're doing it, where they're actually allowing above 5 GB for data, which is great for music and videos, where you can't see that. I mean, try sending an email in 2024 with 10 megabytes. You'll break the internet, right? So I just see that blockchain art just redefining the way digital content is delivered, where it's like, oh yeah, blockchain, NFTs, whatever. But in 5 years, 10 years, we're going to be the broadcasters, where the channels, traditional media is going to kind of follow this suit, in my opinion.
Okay. And I know you have a lot of irons in the fire, but obviously we're a Tezos focused podcast. So what can you tell us about what you're currently focused on and working on here in the Tezos ecosystem?
There's so much to be able to do, really, if people really, dive into the Tezos community. You have, the Tezos Common community, where, there's constantly this cauldron of different artists and just people in general who are creating together. And I love to be part of that, just to hear what other people are working on. It inspires me, whether it's like music, whether it's kind of like VR or virtual worlds. And I'm hoping to just open up my portfolio and do a little bit, but it's the Tezos community in general what continues to inspire me, because the people who are in there, it's just like the art that they're pushing. It kind of pushes you, when you have, like, better runners around you, you tend to run faster. You know what I mean? And I'm what you called an OG, an old geek. So it's like having these young people around me doing really dope stuff that reminds me of the novelty of the late 90s graphics, where 3D guys were like, you're working on that, So yeah, there's so much in the Tezos community. I mean, you have Tez Domains, which are really pushing the envelope when it comes to Web3 identity and Web3 domains. And there's so much more coming down that pike.
Okay. And looking back, what do you think originally attracted you to Tezos and its ecosystem?
The aesthetic. The aesthetic. I mean, look at your cap, right? I don't know who I need to send my lunch money, but I want one of those caps. But yeah, the aesthetic right off the bat. I mean, Hicknun 2, Objects, Taya. It's almost like, if you're gonna be part of this, there's almost like a look. There's a scene, and for certain artists, it's a no-brainer. And it's not all-inclusive. I mean, they allow everybody, because they is everyone. And that's what I noticed right off the bat. There's certain scenes you can go around, to a certain club, you walk in, you listen to music and stuff, you're like, not my scene, but hey, they're having fun. And I see a lot of that, whether it's virtual worlds or spaces or just collections in general. Right off the bat, 2022, I saw and I was like, oh, I like this. I like the art in it. Oh, and these people are part of it, where it's like, these are the people who are the heavy hitters over here, selling it for tens of thousands of dollars. And they're literally giving this version of their art, which is amazing, future classics. I'm talking about, just Exmortal, like Robness, Stella Bell, Professor, just like, and it's just like, I'm looking at these people and I'm like, this is all dope art, and it's like, if I describe Tezos art, just the art part of it, it was just like, where the finance is not really an element as to why you're creating. Obviously, we all need finance. We would not have this transmission if the power was not on and the internet was running. But it's about kind of taking that away just for that. And it's, and just transmitting it. And it's like, that's what I loved about it, But then you have so much stuff of it that comes about. And it's almost hard to describe in words, but I just love the aesthetic, the style, the people, the community, and so much drops where it's like, hey, this is literally free,
Yeah.
but it's only free for 24 hours. It's only free for 12 hours. Behind me, you can see an actual um, a labyrinth that I created on Cyber, a virtual world, and it has over 200 pieces of said Tezo artists, which
Mm,
can be you can be found at teztrash.art. And yeah, that Tez Trash community, glitch community, pixel community is just, I mean, that's what gets me up. That's what makes me say I need to finish this website so I can work some more on that.
and these are all pieces that you've collected?
These are all, yeah, these are all. I'm working on the actual sixth gallery right now. This is 5 galleries interjoined of all pieces. You can find that at testtrash.art and through on cyber. And it's literally, I may have 2 pieces in there, 3. Everything else is just, I just wanted to push it from pixel art, arcade, motif, all kinds of stuff. It's really dope.
Very cool.
And it's just about pushing the community. And that's what I see in the Tezos community.
Okay. And I know you mentioned 20, 21, 22. So we're talking about 2 to 3 years that you've spent building and creating on Tezos and interacting with the community here. What can you tell us about that experience and what it's been like?
Good. Actually, really good. Easy, honestly. Just the hurdles were just our own imagination, to be honest with you. Because I mean, again, bandwidth is a thing I deal with. Trying to be the web designer, trying to be the tech guy, trying to be art director, trying to be all that. But at the same time, this is what I want to come home to and just work on. This
Yeah.
is the stuff that I just want to work on. You know what I mean? And I love having that. The thing that, yeah, this makes me money as well, but it's not the reason why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So within the Tezos community, yeah, I think I'm almost answered it. Where it's just like it's the art, it's the stuff that I'm working on, and I'm hoping to work on more music and adding more of that audio element that I feel a lot of projects are missing across the chain, across the verse. And that's something in 2025 that I've been producing for 2023, 2024, but it's just I haven't placed it yet. And I think like places like Tea, I think that's where it's going to be.
Okay. And I understand that you've involved yourself with Art Basel and Bit Basel, both of which are coming up pretty shortly. Can you walk us through what those events are and the connection between them?
Yeah. Well, Art Basel in itself has been around since 1970. That's 54 years, and one of the biggest art festivals in the world, if not the biggest. And it really set the precedent and the template for everybody else. Where they do it in Hong Kong, it's actually happening right now in Paris, Basel, Paris, and in that last month of the year, Miami Beach is blessed since 2000, actually two, where it's going to be here in Miami Beach. Bit Basel is an amazing collective from Miami, homegrown. And what they do is they kind of did a spinoff. It's their 5th year doing it. And they did a spinoff where it's like, it's about art, it's about technology, it's about blockchain, it's about education, and they were, I would say, one of the first back when they were called the Blockchain Center in 2018. And I've been a part of what I feel like the collective, whether it's just going to their events, whether it's participating, whether it's volunteering in the last, whether it's in the different panels and stuff they do around town. And actually, this year, I've been given the responsibility to be a digital and physical art curator, where it's a lot more logistics and operations and organizing and getting the people involved, which is what I would love to get more of the Tezos community involved, where the panels I go to and stuff, I don't really see a lot of the Tezos, um, either signage or education or stuff like that. And I mean, the holy grail, the TezPole, right? I mean, I would love to have a TezPole or a Tez Nook or a Tez Corner, something. You know what I mean? If I have the power to do that, I would. Even if it's like a projector and LED, I'm gonna try to do that because definitely there needs to be a light shed on the Tezo community and Tezo art.
That's all fair. Like currently, what kind of presence do you expect Tezos to have at those events? Like, um, what are the chances of us seeing another TezPole at one of these events?
Um, I think I think there's a good possibility. I mean, I don't. Again, it's October, and that means that December is a week away theoretically. I mean, because people right now are playing, shuffle and musical chairs, trying to get spaces and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So there's a great possibility for those people who are working late or not in time, not even have their event. But the reality is, I haven't seen the schedule for everything happening. But for Basel, um, again, like I said, I haven't seen any Tezo artists kind of submit as of now. There is a submission type form that I have pinned to my Twitter where I want people to kind of come in and set their stuff on. And I wanted to
What's your handle on Twitter so that people can
Oh
contact you
yeah,
if they want
that's
to bring you
so that's at TechMental underscore, right? And you should see there where there is a submission for a type form. And where I want digital artists, I mean, it could be physical artists as well. I mean, it's where, installations, activations. I mean, that's how Art Basel in Miami started. I mean, they were literally containers
Yeah.
and they had crazy activations on them. And these containers were spread on the sand before it was like this crazy thing, so activations, physical and digital. But yeah.
So, from your perspective, why is it important for Tezos to establish a presence at events like these?
We need to create bridges, literally. I mean, sometimes we kind of get on our high horse and we're like, yeah, we're Web3, we're blockchain, you're not this and that. Well, forget about that stuff. We really need to create bridges. And I learned that more and more as being an onboarder. We need to also let people know that there's a community that allows for the imagination to just go wild. It doesn't have to be preset for a certain agenda or narrative. I mean, it's just like I see that the Tesla community needs to, and I don't like to use like underrated or overlooked. It's like because that's all really has to do with your perspective, right, and where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's that little like kind of like I like to say under the radar, where it's like Tezos artists, Tezos community, and everything that's going on in Tezos has really been under the radar for certain eyes that could be like, oh, wait a minute, how long has this been going on? Where it's like I see other kind of collectives or chains getting more of the mainstream look, where I'm like, that's good. But when the smoke clears, we're gonna realize who's who and what's what.
Yeah. So I would agree with all of that, and all of that makes a lot of sense. So, in your sort of efforts to bring Tezos to the events and talk about what's going on in the art scene here, how can the Tezos community support you in doing that and making Tezos an important part of these events and others like them?
Well, great question. Absolutely. I mean, the more momentum, the better, right? And the reality is, momentum would be the funding. It would be funding, whether it's sponsorship, DAO, or what have you. To be able to be a presence, at least under the control, let's say, Basel within Miami Art Week during Art Basel, where it's like we can have signage, we can have actually information, we can have logos, we can have merch, this information with this type of content and media, there'd be, it creates for the optics. And if the worst thing that happens that we could check off that box and say that, hey, we were part of, this entity on this date, that's great. But I think we could do so much more. I believe there's artists, the technology, and just the entire roadmap of what either Tez Domains is doing, the Tez DAO, Tez Commons in general. What
Yeah.
is the roadmap?
Okay. This is all great stuff so far, and I'm excited to learn more. But before we dive into the nitty gritty, are you ready for the world famous TezTalks lightning round?
Well, I got my number two pencil, so if it's multiple choice, I am ready.
It is not,
Oh
but it
boy.
is lightning round time. Remember, there are no wrong answers. This is just for fun, so our viewers can get to know you a little bit better. Are you ready?
Sure, let's go.
Question one, two, and three are multiple choice. Are you a night owl or an early riser?
Night owl.
Exercise or naps?
Exercise.
Chicken or fish?
Black and mahi and seasoned salmon all day.
Ooh. What's your favorite country to visit for a vacation?
I wish I traveled as much as I dream of. I want to say just Europe in general. I would love to invade Berlin, summer 2025.
If you were elected king of the world, what's the first thing you would do?
A notion that's never crossed my mind. I would have a global Olympic competition on what nation country can create the best pizza and have their culture foods mixed in it. And I, of course, would be the judge. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Name one thing you will never do again.
Uh, we might have to have an entire other space on that. But I don't know, eating a tuna sub at 4 a.m. Let's just say that.
Okay. What's the secret to happiness?
Secret to happiness. Music.
Okay. Do you have any pets?
Um, Theoretically, I adopted a wooden turtle from Jamaica in 2003, and Igor's been with me this whole
Igor.
time.
Igor
Yeah,
the wooden turtle. Okay.
yeah.
And finally, what is your favorite thing to do on a rainy day?
Interesting because it literally rains every other day here in Miami. Um, Working on music, video editing, and compiling, converging both. I love that. I just time travel.
Lovely. Those were excellent answers. This concludes the TezTalks lightning round. Let's get back into it. Now that we've talked about what you're currently working on here in the Tezos ecosystem, I'd like to zoom out a little bit and talk about the state of blockchain powered art more broadly. First off, what is the state of blockchain and Web3 art in 2024 as you see it?
So I think the way it's moving forward and the way that, I mean, if you're in the States, you see how important and how much of a variable it's become within the political system, right? Where it's like before we were kind of, what's that saying? First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, and then, that whole thing. And I think that sets a big precedence globally, as artists, how we control our art, how we control our media, and who gets to partake in it. We were given this, literally this access, this kind of data accessibility. And I feel the way it's moving forward, we need to be very careful as individual artists how and where we project our art and who gets to partake in it. But more towards the future of it, I feel it's moving in directions where blockchain art is going to be a part of everything. Whether it's going to come up as, on the glass of your Samsung refrigerator or on the billboards of said cities where you can literally just kind of move it because audience participation. I believe audience participation is going to play a big role with augmented reality, with virtual reality, spatial computing. I mean, you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a new company doing something for augmented reality, even though all they have is a model, a prototype, but I've been dabbling in augmented reality for the past handful of years with, blockchain art. And I just feel like blockchain art is going to be the things that the apparel, the music, the videos that where now you right today, if you post a video and it gets, somewhat of a presence, you're going to have DMs and emails from media companies going, hey, can we use this? We would like to use it for the news. Now it's like, oh, you want to use it? Here, let me send you this link where you can buy it, for 100
Yeah.
TED. And that's where we need to be. We need to start, thinking broadly, where it's like, it's our media. You like that. I know you do. You're going to pay for it.
Yeah. Interesting. The art scene on Tezos has always been a point of pride in this ecosystem. So how would you describe the Tezos art scene and the Tezos art community as they exist today?
Flourishing, inspirational, continue. I mean, you have like today, like I gave you some glitch, some trash art names earlier. And if you guys didn't hear that, please rewind. But I mean, I look at stuff like Retromani, with his style of that kind of Tron slash kind of uh, 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 just a whole new style, a whole new feel to it. And that's what I feel that Tesla's art community is bringing in. It's like whether you've been working on video games for X company, well, guess what? All those layers that were never accepted, that project that you have in that hard drive since when, bring it over to Tez. Let's work with it. And that's what I'm seeing about a lot of the Tez stuff. Where it's like, just the stuff like X Mortal does. Where I want to see more of his music stuff because his music background is incredible. And it's just like it's the punk version of blockchain art. I mean, there's no other. I mean, that's cool. I crush the ice with ETH. Mess with BTCR and all that. But I mean, to deal with the skaters and the hip hop and the breakers and the punks and those guys, I mean, that's been my narrative my entire life because I was born into it, and that's why I feel Tezos. That's just where it is.
Interesting. So obviously the conversation around blockchain and art has been very much dominated by NFTs up to this point. Has that changed at all for those creating art in the blockchain space, or are NFTs still the sort of dominant force in how blockchain and art intersect?
So you mean NFTs aren't dead? Because
You tell me.
maybe the idea we thought it was, or what people were placing them to be, right? I just feel like NFTs in general really can and cannot have to do with art. The reality. I mean, non-fungible tokens have existed since before electricity was discovered. If we want to really geek out on it, right? Your driver's license, social security card, your passport, non-fungible tokens, right? So the reality is I see NFTs, whether it's, selling your vehicle, for, and tokenizing the title of said vehicle, and knowing that this is, I mean, right now you can go to Craigslist and select the box accepting cryptocurrencies, where it's like, this is the real deal, So the more we think about how NFTs are more than art, more than media, and where we could place it anywhere, the more the NFT art is going to be accepted, and the currency and just the entire state of mind of it. But I really see just the NFT art, or crypto art rather, just really come off the screen. It's going to come off, the chains and really just be all around us. Where, I mean, right now, there's a crew like Wonderland, Wonderland Wonder.land and Wonder.shop. These guys are taking, whether it's Tezos or whatever it is, and placing them in art scenes all around in augmented reality. You know what I mean? Where you can go and now get the apparel, get this merchandise and put it on. So I think it's a convergence of augmented reality and crypto art together. It is what's going to be the future mall. Where the mall is, hey, by the way, I just left that apparel that you were asking about right outside your door. Oh, okay, I'm gonna open my door. Boom, there it is. I get
Yeah.
an alert saying, hey, would you like to interact with TechMental's activation? It's the same thing with music. Back in the day, someone would pop their trunk. Hey, here's my mixtape. No, now we have, virtual real estate, right? You pass my geo fence. Hey, would you like to hear this 30-second snippet? And if you like it, it's on chain. You can buy the whole track. This is where we're at. This is not a dream. This is where
Yeah.
we're at, and this is what's being produced.
Okay. And you're like on that same vein, you're currently working on a project called Dark Voice, which I understand is designed, correct me if I'm wrong, but designed to add an audio element to, that's it right there.
I'm keeping it low because the neighbors, they keep complaining. You know what I mean? But
Can you
yeah,
walk us through that project a bit?
sure. Thank you for asking about that. But Dark Voice is a two-part partner project within myself and my friend Alan, childhood friend, my brother, really partner in crime. And between my aesthetic, my imagination, his aesthetic, his imagination, and the audio that we both create, we're kind of lacing the aesthetic of it. I've done it for other artists and other collectives, just as a silent partner. But we created Dark Voice to be more to adding that audio, entity to a lot of projects, especially starting with our own. So simulation reality will be something that in 2025 I'm gonna be uh, tokenizing on Tezos, and it's just a collaboration of really adding the audio element, electro, really deep electro bass. Coming out of Miami, coming out of New York, the convergence. Inspired by German techno, and it's just that style, which is the same audio element. That's the soundtrack for the same graphics you see. I mean, a lot of times I'm in these spaces and I'm seeing these where it's really dope art, and then we have this really kind of just, oh, okay, AI made this music, and it's like, but what is? It doesn't reflect the art,
Mm.
Where I push. I mean, kind of a pain in the butt, but I push people, who are creating these audio spaces, like, hey, you know what? There's a lot of audio artists within the Tezos community, within the Twix community, where it's like, let's use them for the intro and the outro. Why are we
Mm.
using FM music? Why? There's so much art here, and art is across the board, visual and audio.
And that's Dark Voice, DARKVOIZ, right?
Correct. Or
Okay.
Z for those in the States.
Either one works.
Correct.
Um, as a bit of an OG, you've had a hand, as you mentioned a couple of times, in onboarding many artists and photographers, etc., into the blockchain space. Why have you felt like that should be a priority for you?
Yeah, welcoming the next generation. And it doesn't matter where you are in that timeline, in your own timeline. I think if somebody asks a question, if you have the bandwidth to ask, to answer that question, I think that's the first step. Sometimes, you get that random DM or email about, a project, and sometimes we forget about it, and the reality is I've been in events where people come and ask me a question, very random. It's really easy to be like, oh, look, I'm busy, stuff like that. But since 2016, I started 2016, 2017, started onboarding people to Coinbase. And we're talking about podiatrists, just different people who are just, my clients, and
Mm.
basically onboarding. I see them what they do within their own companies, where now they have a little QR code in their office, whether it's their gallery, whether it can, oh, you can contribute by scanning here, this kind of stuff. It's really important. Onboarding process, the same way you were onboarded, it needs to happen to somebody. That's how we continue to happen, because the more we have working of, maybe someone's not working on art,
Mm.
maybe it's mental health, maybe their gift is speaking for 3 hours, which is not mine,
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. So definitely, I think onboarding is the way to go. I mean, I've onboarded street artists and graffiti writers, for the past 5 years, and the stuff they're doing is incredible. And it's just I see how the medium changed their art, which
Yeah.
is one thing that a lot of people don't realize, how when you practice with different mediums, it's going to change you and therefore change your art.
Yeah. So when people are making that transition and when you're working to onboard them, what's the most important thing an artist making their move into blockchain and Web3 needs to know?
In my opinion, if you're an artist, don't change your style to appease whatever is going on at the popular table. Don't do that. I see people do that and it's just crash and burn. And then
Mm,
it's like you lose your identity. You know what I mean? I see people coming in and which way, in whichever chain or which way they come in and kind of do that. I like it when it's like whatever you did and whatever you've been doing for so long, continue doing it. Do it, just do it through here. And that's one of the first things I let, if they're an artist or in whatever capacity, it's just continue doing what you're doing. Like
yeah.
introduce your style, introduce what you've been doing and the reason why you're doing it. Maybe you're going to be educating people. It's your day one, but it's also everyone else's day one in meeting you. And now
Yeah.
you've just adopted an entire new community.
Yeah. So like you said before, like making that transition, continuing doing what you're doing, but also being aware that, as you said before, like working in this new medium with this new audience in this new way will probably change how that manifests, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and it's because people are gonna go through their renaissance. They're gonna be like, wow, I went in there and I didn't think I was here. I didn't think I was gonna sell anything. And oh, I didn't think I'm getting better reception from people. These people I don't know, from like my 4,000 followers on Instagram. It's like, well, this is why we're here.
Yeah.
Because there's a community. Yeah, there's all these avatars or PFPs, of people who are supporting you that you don't even know really, but they're supporting you in one way or the other, whether it's a click, a like, a follow, or they might even actually purchase your media.
Yeah. Um, you just another thing I wanted to touch on before we close up. You mentioned you're involved on some level with Tezos Domains, who we've spoken to a number of times. Can you tell us a bit about your role there, what you're doing?
Honestly, my role is just a community member. I am when it comes to domains. I mean, I that's my obsession. It's like, should I have dinner or should I renew those domains? You know what I mean? It's like I've been registering domains since the late '90s, and with the advent of Web3 identity, I from ENS into Tez domains. And I really, and where I have, like, for instance, techmental.tez, dot page takes you right to techmental.com, which
Yeah.
techmental.com I've had for 24 years now. And I love that. Where it's like a couple of months ago, I created a suggestion. I made a suggestion, and the Tez domains community, the DAO, the whole infrastructure, like, actually realized that suggestion, and they, amongst themselves, made it happen, where your primary domain becomes that domain, not in a number scheme, but an actual in your name, which is the reason why we're doing it. That little thing right there gave me so much love. And when I found out about it, I was like, that's so cool, and it's audience participation overall. That's one thing I've seen within the Tezos community, that it's like, it doesn't matter how big or small you are as an entity, there's audience participation, so I'm looking forward to working more with the Tez domain, just in general, whether it's
Mm,
giving suggestions or being part of something. As my bandwidth clears up, I want to be able to work with that, because I have so much more ideas that I can bring from experience of what I've been doing from Web 1 through Web 3.
yeah. Aside from the things that you've already mentioned and touched on, what's next for TechMental? Do you have any other exciting rollouts or announcements in the works?
um just I've been producing art all summer, all spring, all summer, and I haven't put it on chain yet. A lot of it's music, has a music narrative to it, a lot of augmented reality. Finishing up my latest virtual world. So just putting all this stuff together. I'm very heavy into augmented reality, and by augmented reality I mean actually placing geopin augmented reality where a third party can interact with it, and, that's going to be very heavy with the Tezos art. So working a lot of that, working on art, and yeah, and just kind of bringing that to the conversation, where it's like, yeah, it's cool that it's on the screen, but this same gallery that you see here, that is Tezos, influence, taking that out and putting it in Art Basel, putting it in South by, putting it in whatever it is where people can interact with it, and that's the future of digital art.
Okay. We could go on all day, but unfortunately, we are actually coming to the end here. To all our viewers, thanks for watching. If you'd like to get in touch with us, our social media contacts can be found at tezoscommons.org/TezTalks. We'd love to hear from you. TechMental, thanks so much for joining us today. It's always awesome to speak to the artists realizing their creative visions here in the Tezos ecosystem and keeping Tezos at the forefront of the Web3 art revolution. Is there anything else you'd like to mention or plug before we sign off here? I know one thing that did occur to me is I don't think we've said where is the best place for people to keep up to date on what you're working on.
Sure. Web3.Miami, TechMental.com. For digital artists, physical artists, activations. If you want to be part of the conversation, maybe you physically cannot be, but your presence, your digital presence can be. Go to bitbasel.miami. That's a web domain. And you're going to find a form. You're going to go ahead and fill that out. I'm going to end up with it. The team's going to end up with it. And just specify you're a Tesla artist and you want to be part of the conversation. And let's make that happen. Because, the future is for us to design.
Fair enough. To everyone out there in Tezos land, thanks for joining us on TezTalks Live. I'm Stu from the Tezos Commons, and our awesome guest has been TechMental. Now let's go show the world what Tezos-powered art is capable of.